The first thing people noticed wasn't her. It was the plane. A sleek white private cutting through the quiet sky above a luxury coastal resort, the kind of place her ex-husband once said they could never afford. Then the door opened. Natalie stepped down slowly, one hand on the railing, the other resting on her pregnant belly. Two small children followed behind her, holding hands. Inside that resort, her ex-husband was minutes away from marrying the woman he cheated with. He had invited her to watch him be happy. He had no idea she was about to walk in and end everything he built on lies. Welcome to today's story. If you enjoy emotional drama and shocking twists, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And before we begin, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. 6 weeks earlier, the envelope arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. It was thick, cream-colored, the kind that didn't come from bill collectors or late notices. Natalie knew before she opened it. She had been sorting through a stack of unpaid utility bills at the small kitchen table. The apartment smelled faintly of burnt toast and cheap detergent. Her back hurt. Her feet were swollen. The twins were at school. It was the only quiet hour she got all day. She stared at the envelope for a long time. Then she opened it. Daniel Brooks and Olivia Carter request the honor of your presence. She didn't read the rest at first. Her eyes dropped to the date, June 15th. Her fingers tightened slightly on the paper. That was their anniversary. 12 years since she had stood in a white dress and believed in something she couldn't even name anymore. She flipped the card over. There was a note. Of course there was. Natalie, I know this might feel strange, but I think it's important for us to move forward. No hard feelings. The kids deserve to see both of us happy. Daniel, no hard feelings. She let out a small breath. Not quite a laugh, not quite anger, just disbelief. She sat there in that cramped apartment with peeling paint near the window and read those words again. Slower this time. No hard feelings about the affair. No hard feelings about him leaving. No hard feelings about the divorce that left her with almost nothing. Her hand moved unconsciously to her stomach. The baby shifted, a slow, heavy movement, 6 months along now. She still hadn't gotten used to the weight of it, or what it meant. Daniel didn't even know. Not really. He knew she was pregnant when the divorce finalized. But after that, he stopped asking. Stopped showing up to doctor appointments. Stopped returning calls unless it involved scheduling time with the twins. It had become transactional. Everything about him had. Natalie placed the invitation on the table, next to her due electricity bill. The contrast made something tighten in her chest. Luxury wedding, ocean view venue, handwritten notes. And here she was, calculating whether she could delay paying rent another 3 days without getting a notice. She stood up slowly. Her lower back ached. She walked to the sink and rinsed out her coffee mug, even though it was already clean. Something about repetitive movement helped her not think too much. Because when she thought too much, she went back. Back to the kitchen in their old house. Back to the night he told her he was unhappy. Back to the moment he said Olivia's name. Back to the look on his face when he explained it like it was reasonable. Like it was something she should understand. You changed, Natalie. She hadn't changed. She had been pregnant, exhausted, taking care of 2 toddlers, managing a house he barely lived in anymore. But to him, that was the problem. She dried her hands slowly. Her phone buzzed on the table. She ignored it at first, then it buzzed again, unknown number. She almost didn't pick it up, almost. But something about that envelope sitting there, something about the date printed on it, made her feel like ignoring things wasn't an option anymore. She picked up the phone. Hello? A pause. Then, a man's voice, calm. Yes. My name is Ethan Hale. I'm calling because there are some financial records connected to your ex-husband that you need to see. She frowned slightly. I think you have the wrong person, he said quietly. And I know this sounds strange, but your divorce settlement wasn't what it should have been. Her chest went still, completely still. What are you talking about? Another pause. Then I have evidence that Daniel hid assets during your divorce. Silence filled the room. Natalie looked down at the wedding invitation again, at the date, at the name written next to his. And for the first time since she opened it, something inside her didn't feel small. It felt alert. What kind of evidence, she asked, and whatever answer came next, she had a feeling it was going to change everything. Natalie didn't hang up right away. She stood there, phone pressed to her ear, eyes still on the invitation, like the paper might somehow explain what she had just heard. I'm listening, she said finally, her voice lower now. Careful. On the other end, Ethan didn't rush. That alone made her pause. Most people who wanted something talked fast, pushed. Tried to convince. He didn't. Your ex-husband filed revised financial disclosures 3 months after your divorce, he said. That's public record. What isn't public is where that money came from. Natalie leaned against the counter. She felt heavier all of a sudden. What kind of money? A little over $2 million, he said, transferred through a shell account. It wasn't listed during your settlement. Her stomach tightened. $2 million. She remembered sitting in that cold conference room. Her lawyer, young, overwhelmed, flipping through papers she barely understood. Daniel's lawyer doing most of the talking. Confident. Smooth. This is standard, he had said. Given her lack of income, she had nodded back then because she didn't know what else to do. Now her hand gripped the edge of the counter. You're saying he hid it? She asked. I'm saying, Ethan replied, steady. There's a strong indication he moved assets before the divorce finalized, which would mean your settlement was based on incomplete information. Incomplete. That was a polite word for it. Natalie closed her eyes for a second. Just 1 second. The baby shifted again. Harder this time, like a reminder. Stay here. Stay present. Why are you telling this, she asked. A pause. Because I used to work for him, Ethan said. And I didn't speak up when I should have. She opened her eyes again. That mattered. Not because it made him trustworthy, but because it made him human. What do you want? She asked. Nothing from you, he said. I already left the company, but I kept records. I shouldn't have, but I did. There it was. A boundary crossed, but for a reason. I can send you the documents, he continued. You should show them to a lawyer. If they're valid, you may be able to reopen your case. Reopen. The word sat heavy in her chest. She looked around her apartment again, the chipped counter, the outdated appliances, the stack of bills. Then she looked at the invitation oceanfront ceremony. Black tie, luxury venue, 2 completely different lives. And one of them had been built on something she never saw. I want to see it, she said. Okay, Ethan replied. I'll email everything. Take your time. Don't decide anything tonight. That surprised her. Most people would tell me to act fast, she said. You're 6 months pregnant, he said simply. You don't need more pressure. You need clarity. Silence filled the space between them. For the first time since the call started, Natalie felt something shift. Not anger, not even relief. Just a small, steady sense that she wasn't crazy for feeling like something had been wrong all along. Thank you, she said quietly. You don't have to thank me, he replied. Just read the files. The call ended. Natalie set the phone down slowly. Then she sat. Really sat this time. Both hands on her stomach, breathing through the weight pressing against her chest. A few seconds passed. Then her laptop chimed. New email. From Ethan Hale. She stared at the screen, didn't open it right away, because somewhere deep down she already knew. Whatever was inside that file was going to change how she saw her entire marriage, and maybe why it ended the way it did. Natalie didn't open the file for almost 10 minutes. She just sat there, hands folded, eyes on the screen. The cursor blinked like it was waiting for her to decide something bigger than just clicking. Finally, she exhaled and opened it. The first page looked like nothing. Numbers, columns, bank names she didn't recognize, transaction dates that meant nothing to her at first glance. But then she saw his name, Daniel Brooks, over and over again. Different accounts, different transfers, same pattern. Money moving out just weeks before their divorce was finalized. Her throat tightened. She scrolled. Another file opened automatically, a timeline. Dates lined up with moments she remembered too clearly. The week he told her he needed space. The week he started coming home late. The week he suggested they simplify finances before the divorce. Her hand slowly moved to her mouth, not because she was shocked, because she wasn't. That was the worst part. Somewhere deep down, this felt familiar, like a missing piece clicking into place. She leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling for a second. Then she sat up again and kept reading. Ethan had highlighted sections, not aggressively, just enough. Transfers routed through an account under his mother's name, Linda Brooks, of course. Natalie let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. Almost. It wasn't just Daniel, it never had been. She could hear Linda's voice in her head, calm, controlled. Always polite in public, always cutting in private. You need to be smarter about money, Natalie. Daniel works too hard to carry everything. Natalie looked down at her hands. She had carried everything. The pregnancies, the sleepless nights, the house, the routines, the quiet sacrifices no one ever documented. And while she was doing that, they were moving money behind her back, legally, carefully, quietly. Her stomach twisted again. Not from the baby this time, from something sharper. Betrayal that had been organized. She closed the laptop halfway. Not all the way, just enough to breathe. Her phone buzzed again. A text this time. Daniel. She stared at his name for a long second before opening it. Hey, just checking if you got the invitation. Let me know if the kids will be there. Olivia really wants everything to feel positive. Positive. Natalie read the message twice. Then once more, her thumb hovered over the keyboard. She could feel the old instinct rising. Be polite. Keep things calm. Don't make it harder. That voice had kept her quiet for years. But something about the document sitting inches away from her changed that. Not anger. Clarity. She typed slowly. She stopped. Didn't add anything else. No reassurance, no explanation. Just that. 3 words. She hit send. Almost immediately, the typing bubble appeared. Then disappeared, then came back. She watched it, expression unreadable. Finally, another message. Great. I think it'll be good for everyone. Natalie let out a breath. She looked at the half-closed laptop again. At the numbers she didn't fully understand yet, but understood enough. At the name of the woman who had smiled at her across dinner tables while helping her son take everything. Her hand rested on her stomach again, slow, steady. You're not going to grow up thinking this is normal, she whispered. It wasn't loud, but it was firm. For the first time, it felt like a line, a real one. Her laptop chimed again. Another email from Ethan. Short. There's more, including how he's funding the wedding. Natalie's eyes flicked back to the screen. Then slowly, she opened the laptop again. Because now she wasn't just reading about the past. She was about to find out what he was still hiding. Natalie opened the second file slower this time. Not out of fear. Out of control. If she rushed, she might miss something, and she had missed enough already. The document was labeled differently. Not just numbers, contracts. Her eyes moved carefully line by line until a name stood out. Carter Holdings, Olivia's family. Natalie leaned closer to the screen. There it was. A proposal. Clean, professional, carefully worded. Daniel's company was seeking a major investment. Expansion, growth projections, projected returns. It all looked solid at first glance. But now she knew where to look. The numbers didn't match. Not with what she had just seen in the previous file. Revenue inflated, losses buried. Debts shifted. It wasn't just about hiding money from her. He was doing it again. Just bigger to beat slower. Not faster. That scared her more, because it meant she wasn't reacting anymore. She was thinking. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. But not from Daniel. From a contact she hadn't saved. Did you see the second file? Ethan. She stared at the message for a second before replying. Yes. A pause. Then he's using her family's money, isn't he? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then came back. Yes, Ethan wrote. From what I can tell, the wedding is part of that. Natalie frowned slightly. Another pause. Longer this time. When investors commit at that level, Ethan replied, there's usually a relationship component. Trust. Alignment. The marriage helps secure that. Natalie leaned back, slow love. It wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. Her fingers tightened slightly around the phone. And Olivia, she typed. She knows? This time, the response took longer. I don't think she knows everything, he said. Maybe some of it. But not all. Natalie looked back at the contract, at Olivia's name, at the signatures waiting to be filled. A strange feeling settled in her chest. Not anger. Something more complicated. Because 4 years ago, she had been that woman. The one who believed the version of him he chose to show. The one who thought she was different, special, chosen. Her jaw tightened. Why are you still involved? She asked. If you left the company, a few seconds passed. Then because I watched him do this to you, Ethan replied. And I said nothing. I'm not doing that again. Natalie swallowed. That answer landed heavier than the documents. Not perfect, not heroic, but honest, and that mattered. She closed the laptop slowly this time. Fully. Not because she was done, because she needed a moment. Her apartment felt smaller now. Not just clearer. She walked to the window and looked outside. People passing by, cars moving, life continuing like nothing had changed. But something had, inside her. She wasn't just the woman who got left anymore. She was the woman who knew. Her hand rested on her stomach again. The baby moved. Stronger this time. Alive, present, real. You don't build your life on lies, she whispered. It wasn't about Daniel anymore. Not completely. It was about what came next. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan. One more thing, the message read. There's a clause in that contract. If the truth comes out before the deal closes, the entire investment collapses. Natalie's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he added, and the deal closes the night of the wedding. She didn't reply, didn't move, because now she understood something very clearly. If the truth came out at the right moment, it wouldn't just hurt him. It would destroy everything he was trying to build. And for the first time, Natalie didn't look away from that possibility. Natalie didn't sleep that night. She lay on her side, staring at the faint crack in the ceiling above her bed. The twins were asleep in the next room. The apartment was quiet, except for the occasional hum of the old refrigerator. Her mind wasn't. It kept circling back to the same point. He didn't just leave her. He built something new on top of what he took. And now there was another woman standing exactly where she used to stand. Believing the same things, trusting the same voice. Her hand rested on her stomach. The baby shifted again, slower this time. "You don't get to repeat this," she whispered into the dark. She didn't even know if she meant it for Daniel or for herself. Morning came too fast. By 8, she was already dressed, the twins halfway through their cereal, arguing over whose turn it was to pick the cartoon. Normal. That word almost made her laugh. "Mom, are we going to Dad's wedding?" Lily asked suddenly, her spoon pausing midair. Natalie froze for a second. Just a second. Then she nodded. "Yes." Ethan looked up from his bowl. "Are you happy about it?" The question hit harder than it should have. Natalie forced a small smile. "I don't think it's about being happy," she said gently. "Sometimes we show up because it's the right thing to do." That wasn't the whole truth, but it was enough for them. For now, she dropped them off at school, kissed both their heads, and sat in her car for a minute longer than necessary. Then she pulled out her phone, scrolled. Stopped at a name she hadn't called in months. Her lawyer, Jennifer Morales. Natalie hesitated, not because she didn't trust her, because calling meant this was real. It meant she wasn't just thinking about it anymore. She was doing something. She hit dial. Jennifer Morales came the voice, professional, steady. "Hi, it's Natalie Brooks." A brief pause. "Natalie, is everything okay?" Natalie looked down at the folder she had printed out that morning. The pages were slightly wrinkled from her grip. "I think my divorce wasn't handled properly," she said. Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay," Jennifer said slowly. "Tell me what you found." Then she told her everything. Not rushed, not emotional, just facts, transfers, accounts, dates, the connection to his mother, the discrepancies. When she finished, there was silence on the line. Then Jennifer spoke. "If this holds up," she said carefully, "this is serious. Very serious." Natalie closed her eyes. "How serious?" "Enough to reopen your case," Jennifer replied, "possibly more. But we need to verify everything. I'll need those documents. I can send them," Natalie said. "Do that today," Jennifer said. "And Natalie, don't confront him yet." Natalie let out a breath. "I wasn't planning to." "Good," Jennifer said. "Because if he knows you're looking into this, he'll start moving things again. We need to be careful." Careful. Natalie understood that now. This wasn't about reacting anymore. It was about timing. She hung up the phone and sat there in her car, hands resting on the steering wheel. For years, she had been trying to survive what he did to her. Now she was starting to understand it, and that changed everything. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Daniel. "Mom wants to stop by later." She said she hasn't seen the kids in a while. Natalie's jaw tightened slightly. Of course she did. Linda Brooks. The woman whose name was all over those accounts. The woman who smiled at her for years while helping her son take everything. Natalie stared at the message, then slowly typed back, "Sure, she can come by." She hit send. And as she did, something settled into place inside her. Because now this wasn't just about a wedding or a divorce. It was about sitting across from the woman who helped build the lie and pretending, just for a little while longer, that Natalie still didn't know. Linda Brooks arrived 10 minutes early. Of course she did. Natalie saw her car through the window before the doorbell rang. A clean, polished SUV. Not flashy, but expensive in a quiet way. The kind of detail Linda always cared about. Control without looking like control. Natalie opened the door before she knocked. Linda stood there, perfectly put together. Light makeup. Soft smile. The same one she had worn for years. "Natalie," she said warmly, stepping forward like nothing had changed. "You look tired." There it was, not concern, assessment. Natalie stepped aside. "Come in." The twins ran in from the living room. "Grandma!" Linda's face softened instantly. Real this time. She knelt down, hugging them tightly, asking about school, about friends, about small things that didn't matter and mattered at the same time. Natalie watched from a distance. This part had always been confusing. Linda wasn't cruel in obvious ways. She was precise, careful, kind where it was visible, cold where it wasn't. "Sit," Natalie said, gesturing toward the couch. "I won't stay long," Linda replied, settling in anyway. "I just wanted to check on you." With the wedding coming up and everything, Natalie nodded slowly. "I'm fine." Linda studied her for a second. "Not long, just enough." She asked. Natalie met her eyes. "Yes," a small pause. I think that's very mature of you, Linda said. Not everyone can move on with grace. Grace. Natalie felt something tighten in her chest, but her face didn't change. I'm trying, she said simply. The twins ran off to their room again. The apartment felt quieter now. It was just the two of them. Linda leaned back slightly, crossed her legs, relaxed. You know, she said, almost casually, Daniel was worried you might make things difficult. Natalie didn't respond right away, just looked at her. How so, she asked. Linda gave a small smile. Emotions, history. Sometimes people react unpredictably when they feel left behind. Left behind, the words landed softly, but they cut. Natalie let a few seconds pass. Then she spoke. I'm not planning to cause a scene, she said. Linda nodded, satisfied. Good, that's good. Olivia's family is very particular. It's important everything goes smoothly. Natalie's eyes held hers a second longer. There it was again. An event, a transaction, a performance. She seems nice, Natalie said quietly. Linda's smile flickered just for a second. She is, she said, and her family is very supportive. They believe in Daniel's vision, Natalie almost asked, almost. But she didn't. Instead, she nodded slowly. That's important. Linda stood up then, smoothing her coat. I'm glad you understand, she said. It makes things easier for everyone. Natalie walked her to the door. Linda paused before stepping out. You've always been sensitive, she said gently. I hope you've learned to be stronger. For the children? Natalie held her gaze. I have, she said, and this time it wasn't something she said to survive. It was something she meant. Linda nodded once, then left. The door closed. The apartment went quiet again. Natalie stood there for a moment, her hands still on the doorknob, then she turned slowly, walked back to the table, opened her laptop, scrolled to the file with Linda transfer, dates, amounts, accounts, proof real, clear, undeniable. Her hand rested on her stomach again, steady, grounded, because now she had seen it up close. The woman who smiled, the woman who advised, the woman who helped build the lie. And for the first time, Natalie didn't feel small in front of her. She felt ready. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan, I've confirmed something, the message read. Olivia's father is finalizing the investment personally. He'll be at the wedding. Natalie stared at the screen. Then another message came in. If he sees the real numbers, everything collapses instantly. Natalie didn't type back, didn't move, because now the picture was complete. Not just betrayal, not just survival, timing, and the realization settled in quiet but sharp. The wedding wasn't just where it would end. It was where it had to. Natalie didn't act right away. That was the first real change. Before she would have reacted. Called someone, cried, asked what to do. Now she waited. She gave Jennifer 2 days to review everything. 2 days of normal life on the surface, school drop-offs, grocery lists, folding laundry that never seemed to end. But underneath, everything had shifted. Every time her phone buzzed, her chest tightened just a little. On the third morning, Jennifer called. Natalie, she said, voice sharper now, focused. I went through everything. Natalie stepped out onto the small balcony, closing the twins' sliding door behind her. Arguing over something small. Something safe. And? She asked. A pause. This is enough, Jennifer said. More than enough. Natalie closed her eyes for a second. Enough. To reopen the divorce? She asked. Yes. And potentially to claim fraud, Jennifer replied. But we need to be strategic. If we file now, he'll be alerted immediately. His legal team will respond fast. Natalie leaned against the railing. And he'll start covering it, she said quietly. Yes, Jennifer confirmed. Or try to. Moving assets again, creating distance, it gets messy. Natalie looked out at the street below. Cars passing, people walking, normal life continuing. But her life wasn't normal anymore. When does the investment close? Jennifer asked. The night of the wedding, Natalie said. Silence. Then Jennifer exhaled slowly. Then that's your leverage. Natalie didn't respond right away, because she understood what that meant. You're suggesting I wait, she said. I'm suggesting you don't tip your hand too early, Jennifer replied. If the truth comes out before that deal is signed, it collapses. That gives you power, real power, power. Natalie let the word sit there. It didn't feel good. It felt unfamiliar. What about Olivia? She asked suddenly. Jennifer paused. What about her? She doesn't know everything, Natalie said. She's about to walk into this blind. Another pause, longer this time. That's not your responsibility, Jennifer said carefully. Natalie nodded slowly. I know. But it didn't feel that simple, because she remembered, standing at the edge of something she thought was real. Trusting someone who had already decided to use her. She pressed her hand lightly against her stomach. The baby moved again. A quiet reminder. This wasn't just about her anymore. I don't want to destroy someone else just to fix what he did to me, she said softly. Jennifer's voice softened too. Then don't, she said. You're not obligated to protect him or save her, but you can choose how you handle this. That's the difference, choice. Natalie hadn't felt that in a long time. Not real choice. I'll wait, she said finally. But I'm not doing this for revenge. Good, Jennifer replied. Because revenge makes people sloppy. Clarity makes them precise. The call ended. Natalie stayed on the balcony for a while longer, breathing, thinking. Then she went back inside, picked up her phone, scrolled, found Ethan's number. She hesitated for a second. Then she called. He picked up on the second ring. Hi, he said. I talked to my lawyer, Natalie said. No small talk, no hesitation. We're moving forward. But we need to be careful. I agree, he said. A pause. Then she said it, clear, steady. I'm going to the wedding. Silence on the other end. Then, okay, Ethan said slowly. Then we need a plan. Natalie looked at the invitation on the table, at the date, at the life he thought was already secured. No, she said quietly. We need the truth. She ended the call. Not because she was done, because she knew something now that she didn't before. This wasn't about exposing him at the right moment. It was about showing up at exactly the moment he thought he had already won. By the time Natalie stepped out of the car, the ceremony had already started. She could hear the music drifting across the lawn. Soft, elegant, expensive. Everything Daniel had once said they couldn't afford. The twins held her hands on either side, quiet, a little nervous, dressed carefully in clothes she had saved for weeks to buy. Natalie walked slowly, not because she was unsure, because she wasn't rushing anymore. Inside, rows of white chairs faced the ocean. Guests turned as she entered. Whispers moved faster than she did. She didn't look at them. She looked straight ahead. Daniel stood at the altar, perfect suit, confident posture, until he saw her. Then something flickered, just for a second confusion, then calculation. Natalie kept walking. Calm, measured. She took a seat in the back with the twins. Didn't interrupt, didn't speak, she just showed up. Olivia walked down the aisle a minute later. Beautiful, composed, smiling the way Natalie used to smile. For a moment their eyes met and something passed between them. Not hostility, recognition. Then the ceremony continued. Vows, promises, words that sounded good and meant nothing if the truth underneath them was broken. Natalie didn't move. She waited. The ceremony ended. Applause, music shifted. Guests began moving toward the reception area. That was where it mattered. Inside the reception hall, everything was polished. Crystal glasses, soft lighting, conversations that sounded important. Natalie stood near the back again. Ethan was already there. Across the room, he gave a small nod. No more. That was enough. Daniel approached her first. Of course he did. You came, he said, voice tight under the surface. You invited me, Natalie replied. His eyes flicked to the twins, then back to her, and you brought them. They're part of this, she said calmly. A pause. Then he leaned in slightly. Let's not make this difficult, he said under his breath. Today matters. Natalie held his gaze. I know, she said, and she meant something very different. Across the room, Olivia stood with her father. Richard Carter, sharp, observant, the kind of man who didn't miss details. Ethan moved toward him slowly, not dramatic, just deliberate. Natalie watched as they spoke, quietly, privately. A tablet passed between them. Richard's expression didn't change right away. Then it was small, but real. His jaw tightened. He asked something. Ethan answered. More documents, more numbers. The truth didn't explode. It settled. Heavy, unavoidable. Richard turned toward the room. Toward Daniel. Natalie saw it happen before anyone else did. That shift, from celebration to something colder. He walked straight across the floor. Guests noticed. Conversations slowed. Olivia followed, confused. Daniel, Richard said, his voice carrying just enough. Daniel turned, smiling, until he saw his face. What is this? Richard asked, holding up the tablet. Daniel froze, just for a second. It's nothing, he said quickly. Just don't. Richard cut in, sharp, final. Olivia looked between them, then at the screen. Natalie saw the moment it hit her. Not all at once, layer by layer, then disbelief, then something deeper. Her hand dropped slightly from Daniel's arm. You lied? She asked quietly. Daniel's more complicated. No, she said, one word, but it held. Richard's voice cut through again. The deal's off. Silence spread, real silence this time. Not polite, not controlled. Daniel's composure cracked. This is a misunderstanding, he said. Louder now. We can fix this. You built this on false numbers, Richard said. There's nothing to fix. Olivia stepped back, actually stepped away from him, like distance might make it clearer. Natalie didn't move, didn't speak. She didn't need to. Daniel turned toward her then, something desperate in his eyes now. You did this, he said. Not loud, but sharp. No, she said quietly. You did. He stared at her for a long second, then looked around the room. At the people watching, at the deal collapsing, at the life he thought was secured slipping. There was nothing left to hold it up. Natalie took the twins' hands. "We're leaving," she said softly. They didn't argue. They walked with her. Out of the room, out of the noise, out of the version of her life that had once controlled everything. Outside, the air felt different, lighter. Not because everything was fixed, but because something had ended. Ethan caught up with her near the exit. "You okay?" he asked. Natalie nodded, yes. And for the first time, it wasn't something she said to convince herself. Behind them, the reception fell apart. Voices raised, questions, consequences beginning, real ones. Natalie didn't look back. She didn't need to. 3 months later, the case reopened, slow, careful, the evidence held, assets were reassessed, support corrected, terms rewritten, not revenge, correction. Daniel didn't fight as hard as she expected. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he finally understood. Or maybe he just didn't have the same ground to stand on anymore. Natalie moved into a better place, nothing extravagant, just stable, safe. The twins adjusted. The baby arrived healthy. A quiet moment in a hospital room that had nothing to do with him, everything to do with her. One evening, sitting on the couch, holding her newborn, watching her kids argue over something small and meaningless, Natalie realized something. She had spent years trying to be enough for someone who never intended to see her. And the moment she stopped needing that, everything changed. Not overnight, but completely. If you've ever been made to feel small or replaceable, I'd really like to hear your story. Leave a comment, and if you want more stories like this, stay with me.